people who are involved in this deal are all the people that are going to be involved in this deal are well taken care of. Right now, there's a setup, just as I move away from the camera for you to see, there's a setup where there are 4 chairs where the 4 principals are going to sit. Now, all of them will be seated there, but there's a red carpet that they will work on to make sure that they come to this table that is here to sign the agreement that is going to be put here. Witnessing this deal are members of parliament, senators, aspirants, and governors who've come here to make sure that they witness this auspicious deal. Now, the agreement, as we reported yesterday and as we've been following up, is a binding document that will make sure that this team holds together not just for these coming elections, but even after the elections. We are also informed that after signing this coalition agreement, they will retreat into signing a power sharing deal. But just to make sure that we do have the correct details, we are joined by a member of the Secretariat, Mr. Norman Magaya. Norman, what is contained in this deal?
You have called it a deal. We call it a coalition agreement. And basically is that you cannot operate without structures. You must have a formative structure. You must have a vision and mission for the country. And you must have guiding principles that then you are going to use as your basic minimum that are applicable to all your members, to all the leadership. And most importantly is that you must have a structure of government. How do you intend to form government? And as we've stated before, today marks the beginning of the journey for the formation of NASA government. And we have no doubt that what we've started here today will culminate in a victory on the 8th of August this year. So today is a commitment by the principals, subjecting themselves to a proper structure, subjecting themselves to a commitment to hold up together for this country, subjecting themselves to principles for reforms in the economic management of our country, the management of our public debt, social stratification of our country, and embarking on a comprehensive process of deepening constitutional implementation. So all that is a commitment that is being made today. And then after here now, a roadmap will be provided on how we approach the entire question of the elections. Yeah.
Now, there has been a lot of speculation on what is entailed in this deal that is, in this coalition agreement that is going to be signed today, is how they will share power part of the deal, or the coalition agreement.
You know, one of the things we have reiterated before is that we don't have individuals who merely are seeking to share positions. It is not about power. It's about what this coalition intends to do for this country. So what we have today is a framework of how you form government and how you reform institutions and put Kenya back on the world map. So it's not about power sharing. It's about a framework for management of the country, ensuring that Kenya goes back to a country that is inclusive, to a country that is open and democratic, to a country that takes care of its citizens. Yeah.
We have seen coalition agreements being signed earlier, and some of them have been disregarded. How binding is this coalition agreement when signed by the 4 principals?
Ours is a coalition that is ideologically driven. You may remember that given the debacle that happened in 2013, the opposition has sustained something that is very rare in any democracy, of an opposition coalition, where you have nothing to offer but an ideology, an idea that all of you subscribe to. So having been together for the last 4 years, our principals have ideological unity of mind. They have common principles. They have a proper way of synergy in terms of how they want to govern this country. And they cannot, at any juncture, be broken up by any mechanizations. So what we have today is a statement of faith and commitment by the principals. It is not a question of anybody disregarding it. We have lived up to what we purposed in the coalition agreement in 2013, and we intend to implement this one to the latter.
Now, after the signing of this coalition agreement, what next? What next for this coalition principals and the coalition partners?
What next will be said by the principals. They will provide a roadmap of how they intend to transact the businesses of the coalition. Remember that part of what is being done here today is formalization of structures. We have another secretariat that now receives legal backing from this document that will be deposited with the Registry of Political Parties, that will then be in charge of organizing and managing activities and affairs of the coalition. The principles also provide a roadmap. As you know, the election timelines have set in. So we must do everything within the elections timeline set by the law and the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. So the principals will be able to provide that roadmap on where the coalition is headed. But as we said, the coalition will have a flag bearer sooner than the country expects.
The country expects a flag bearer as soon as today. Is it one of the things that we also do expect the principals to tell us?
I think everything the coalition does meets the expectations of the country. And the expectation of the country is that you cannot have a flag bearer without structures. You must put structures in place, put a framework in place before you have a candidate. And once these structures have been formalized today, as I've said, the country will have the flag bearer for NASA sooner than the country expects.
Now, just before I let you go, there is something that has really been bogging the coalition partners, mostly members who want to run on this NASA. Are we going to hold joint nominations, or how are we going to approach nominations?
I don't want to preempt what has clearly been captured in the coalition agreement, but I can tell you for a fact that agreement comprehensively addresses and provides options on how the coalition will approach the question of nominations. So there should be no worry on the part of any aspirant, any candidate who intends to seek the ticket of the coalition. A proper framework has been put in place that will ensure that the most popular and credible candidates get the tickets.
Now, Victoria, we have been speaking to Norman Magaya, who is a serious member of the coalition, now, and that is NASA. But as of now, just to bring you up to date, is that they are waiting for their coalition partners just to arrive here so that they'll be able to sit and sign this deal that they have been waiting for. Their supporters have been saying that it is a milestone, and they have been putting them under a lot of pressure just to make sure that they have a way forward. And the signing of this deal just signifies how far they have come, and as Norman says, that it is comprehensive to the fact that it is going to address some of the questions that have been raised not only by the supporters but also by those who are gunning to run for seats through NASA. But some of the people that we have noticed walking here are Professor Sam Ongeri, who recently decamped to ODM, and some of them also we have seen governors, the Nyamira governor, we have seen him here, the Makueni governor, and some of the members of parliament and senators have already come here just to make sure that they are part of this deal. They had been sent a message yesterday, but also what we've also been able to ascertain is that rally that was meant for later today was cancelled, but we have not been able to ascertain as to why it was cancelled. Back to you, Victoria, but we'll be keeping you updated as information comes to us.
All right, Kennedy Murithi there, speaking from the NASA headquarters in Lavington, setting the stage for the agreement signing by the four principals of NASA, officially making it a coalition. We'll be looking at what that means for the political landscape moving forward, at least until the August 8th elections. I'll be speaking to Professor Macharia Munene, who will be giving his views and analysis on all of this. But first to Seth Olale, who is in the newsroom waiting patiently to let us know what's happening in this world of sports. Seth.
Well, thank you, Vicky. Plenty lined up for you in terms of sports. What a night we had in the Champions League. Actually, on Tuesday night, a total of 14 goals being scored in just 2 games. The main highlight being that match between Manchester City and Monaco, which produced an 8-goal thriller. Falcao and Sergio Aguero each scoring a brace, and if you missed that particular game, you need to watch the replays because it was quite a fantastic match at the Etihad, and it does not end there because tonight the Champions League round of 16 is also kicking off. We have Leicester City, the English representative. They will travel to Spain where they will take on the Europa League champions Sevilla in Spain, and also we'll have the Italian champions Juventus, who will take on FC Porto in Portugal as far as the Champions League round of 16 is concerned. Back at home, we have the Sport Pesa All-Star team. It will depart to the UK today. And you know what, ahead of that game against Hull City, the English Premier League side, which will face the Kenyan side in a friendly match that is lined up later in the coming days. But that team has been training at Kasarani and is set to depart the country today to the UK. And also, we remember that we also have the CAF inspection going on after the team visited quite some stadium, including the Kipchoge Keino Stadium and also the Nyayo Stadium and also Kasarani Stadium. The team is set to go and inspect Kinoru Stadium in Meru as well as Kenyatta Stadium in Machakos. So we have plenty of action lined up for you in our subsequent sports bulletin.
All right, thanks, Seth. Of course, we'll be checking back in with you a bit later on for all of that. But the National Super Alliance, NASA, has agreed on a coalition agreement that will be signed by parties to the deal shortly. According to co-chairman of the working committee, the agreement would be crucial in laying down rules of engagement as they move into the critical stage of deciding their presidential flag bearer and a lineup.
The conclusion of a two-week meeting bringing together representatives from 4 political parties in the opposition, making up the National Super Alliance, has now set up the stage for its formal unveiling. At the Serena Hotel Lantana Room, the 12-member committee tasked with coming up with the rules of engagement for the new outfit were holed up since morning in an effort to fine-tune the coalition agreement that will help the opposition parties chart the way forward.
We are going to be able to sign the coalition agreement tomorrow. As to the details, I think that's a matter which we'll now wait until the formal signing ceremony tomorrow.
Contained in the coalition agreement ready for the principal signing are the mode of sharing resources, the mode of dispute resolution, objectives of the coalition, and the structure of the coalition. Also considered, according to our sources, is the mode of holding joint nominations, which has been a headache for the opposition parties. The 4 co-chairs representing ODM, Wiper, Ford Kenya and Amani National Congress say their biggest task was making sure that they avoid a fallout.
No, there's no disagreement. If there was disagreement, we would not be meeting. And we've been meeting regularly and reporting to the principals regularly, like we'll do today.
Our source also informs NTV that the modalities of choosing their flag bearer are not contained in the coalition agreement. This, we are informed, will be included in the power sharing agreement yet to be agreed upon.
The process that's going on is an extremely important process. I can understand that there is a lot of anticipation and anxiety on the part of the media on behalf of the nation, but that there are small steps that build up to major achievement.
The principals will sign the agreement Wednesday morning at their Lavington offices. The move by the opposition coalition now sheds off some pressure they've been getting from their supporters, who have been insisting on a way forward. Kennedy Mureithi, NTV.
All right, and with me in studio now is Professor Macharia Munene. Just to make sense of what this all means, of course, we're waiting for the 4 principals of the NASA coalition to sign that agreement and bring it and make it official. So, Professor Munene, what are you expecting from this signing of agreement?
The signing of agreement is an indicator that at least the principals, the 4 principals, want to be seen to be working together. Whether they are working together or not is another matter.
So this is cosmetic in your view?
It is cosmetic, and it's like what happened a month or so ago at Bomas, with a lot of hype and expectations that they were going to say who the candidate is. And all we noticed were people dancing and nothing else. And so it was a letdown in Bomas, although it was a good show for Mudavadi, because NASA is his baby.
Right.
So even today, the main beneficiary will be Mudavadi, whether he's named or not, because NASA is his creation. Now, the CORD and ODM, these are Raila's things. Now, the one who seems to be left out of this is now Wetangula with Ford Kenya, which is a minor player, and Kalonzo, which is not as big as ODM, but they are all in this CORD thing. And the assumption or presumption has been for a long time that Raila was going to be the flag bearer anyway.
Right.
The others find a way of making them happy. The sideshows.
Right.
Now, to remove that image that the others are simply supporting battalions has been the struggle because each of them wants to be seen as if he's a serious candidate who should be the flag bearer, but has a problem convincing the others that he should be the one.
Right.
I remember I've just noticed Norman there trying to explain what they're doing. And I remember about 2 years ago you were in a program together, and we said we know Raila is the candidate. The others are just formalities.
So it could prove to be a headache because of course once this agreement is taken to the registrar of political parties,
Yes.
they'll now go into the power sharing deal.
Yes.
That could now prove to be a headache if you're saying Raila is not considered the flag bearer for NASA.
Yeah, there is going to be a very big headache because there will be fallout.
Okay.
Whichever way and it's good they're announcing that they are just signing an agreement on how to work together because they have not been working together. And once they reach that, then the next question is who will be the leader of this working together,
Right.
and who will get the short end of the agreement. And I think that's where the sticking point is. And if they do not announce who the flag bearer is today, it will be another letdown to the country.
Yeah.
Because after all this hype, you expect now tell us who is it. And they seem to be having that sticky thing. Each of them has a serious problem. But the one who has, it's both Kalonzo and Raila, those are the ones who have problems. I don't think Wetangula has a major problem because he's a minor player. Mudavadi, he's created a NASA. It is his vehicle, and you use it for 2022. So just to look good. But Kalonzo and Raila have serious problems in their hands.
So do you feel, because we heard Norman saying that this is going to be binding, this is something that can transcend several election years to come. Do you think that is true, or this is just a political outfit for this election year?
It is a political outfit for this election year, and it will not last as long as KANU did. And it may not even last as long as CORD, because CORD is another of this coalition. The only thing it can do is to make Mudavadi look very good and keep the ball rolling, because he is the one who has serious interest in having it going, because he created it.
So do you think he's going to try and use this maybe to run for president in 2022 perhaps?
Yes.
Okay.
This is his vehicle.
Yeah.
It's his baby. And the success he made was to convince the others to support his idea for the purposes of appearing to be united in opposing Uhuru Kenyatta, because that's what it is. Once the others become sidelined, then they have a serious problem explaining to their supposed followers why they are not there. And if you notice in the last 2 days or so, we have already started hearing some reverberations.
Yeah.
And said, I think it was Eugene Wamalwa who was joking with Wetangula, you are a sideshow, so just get out. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And Kalonzo has a serious problem in his supposed backyard, because there are those people who have made it very clear, if he's not the one, Wiper is out.
I see, but the thing is, of course, if they're bringing these conditions, they need these numbers in order to beat Jubilee. We just saw some numbers released by IEBC showing almost a statistical dead heat between Jubilee and the NASA strongholds. So a fallout in those constituent parties in NASA would actually mess up their chances of winning, or possibly winning the election.
Of course, the sticking together would help.
Right.
It does not mean that the further they stick together, they'll get those figures or those voters they assume are theirs, because this is a myth being created.
Okay.
That some areas belong to NASA. Before they were called CORD, ODM. Now we are being told they are NASA.
They'll be consolidated now, yeah.
That's a myth. Because if you check properly, you'll find that people do not vote necessarily the way the leaders claim. Because if they did, we would not be having the results we keep on getting. You find some people being elected in some place contrary to the expectations of their opinion makers, the leaders, and the media and all those things. So you ask yourself, how did it happen? It happens because the voters are very intelligent because they vote for the candidate they think will deliver. Of course, a lot of them vote emotions, but there are also many who vote candidate. They say this person.
And also along tribal lines as well. It's a huge factor.
No, there is that. There is no question about that. But I think it's been overemphasized. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
It's been overemphasized, this tribal thing. Because when you go there, you're not voting tribe. You're looking to, wait a minute, this fellow. No. Otherwise, it would not have been possible if people are just voting tribal for some people to be elected in some areas.
Right.
Yeah? It would not have been possible. Right. Yet repeatedly, we see people being elected on a ticket that's supposedly the wrong ticket.
Yeah.
But so you ask yourself, why is it that the person was elected? It's because the voters have more trust in this person than anybody else, irrespective of the party, irrespective of the tribe. We have had instances where somebody from a different ethnic group is stuck right in the middle of supposedly hostile and wins. Yeah. So you wonder, why is that? My explanation is that people do examine if you are credible, and if people like you, they'll vote for you. And that's why they keep on, like when you used to have that party hopping opportunity.
Right.
People who are denied the nomination, I would say denied rather than losing. If they are denied, they jump to another party and they win anyway. So why is that the case? Because people are voting for that person rather than the party or the ethnic group.
Okay, so now we know that we can't get away from the fact that NASA needs all four principles in this formula to be able to be a viable force against Jubilee. So in your view, what would be the ideal power sharing structure for NASA?
Well, the Constitution provides for two positions, president and deputy. I was reading somewhere they are dreaming of creating a chief minister.
A hybrid governance.
I mean, that is unconstitutional. It's even illegal thinking, you know, when you look at it. Then you have these other key positions. One of them can become speaker of the House. And being speaker of the House is a very powerful position. There's no question about it. Or being speaker of the Senate. Yeah. So maybe the other two, the ones who miss the deputy, should be looking to become speaker of or speakers of both houses. Not so much the majority leader in any of them, but speakers will give them the clout that will be commensurate with their desires. But the main concern is, will Raila Odinga and Kalonzo cut a deal?
Okay.
Because they ran together last time and they lost.
Right.
So do they want to run together and lose again?
On the same ticket, exactly.
So it's a tricky thing, and I guess that's why they are not announcing who the candidate is today. So we go through the cosmetics of signing some papers to say that we are together.
So what would make the ideal flag bearer and running mate team?
It's hard to say, because each of them has his own strengths.
Okay.
Some are colorless, so even if you give them, they cannot excite people.
Right.
It appears that if they do agree, they might go with Raila.
Okay.
And it may be very difficult to persuade Kalonzo to be number two. Maybe Raila with Mudavadi as the president and running mate. That would look as if it's a good one.
Okay.
Maybe Mudavadi and Kalonzo.
Okay.
Assuming that Raila will agree to torture anybody else. The scenario, it's not very nice.
Yeah.
And it's difficult because whichever way they go, there's going to be serious fallout. And the followers, the supposed followers, have already made it very clear.
Yeah.
If it's not the person they want, there'll be a fallout. Waiting in the wings are these other parties we are not talking about. Alfred Mutua's Chap Chap. He's really waiting, and he's actually harvesting from these both sides, from Jubilee and from NASA. Wavinya Ndeti has been complaining that they're ignoring her, and she's part of NASA.
Right.
So if it doesn't go very well, she might be there waiting to harvest in some. So there will be the challenge to them is to avoid the fallout.
Okay.
And if they can't come up with a good formula that people and convince people, then they'll be on a losing streak.
And Norman kind of alluded, Norman who was speaking to Kennedy a bit earlier, kind of alluded to a remedy for that, which would be going through the nomination process, and they would now pick who would be the flag bearer, running mate, and so forth.
So they can go through, they can organize a nomination process.
Okay.
And the nomination for the flag bearer has always been a stick issue. If you remember, in 1992, that was a sticking issue. How do you nominate the standard bearer? Between Jaramogi, who was talking about delegates, and Matiba, who was talking, let the people decide. So which formula are you going to?
Right.
But had they agreed on a formula, then maybe there would not have been a split in the Ford. And here we have the same snag. Will they all agree that there should be delegates who are bona fide members of NASA, which does not exist
yet? Exactly.
You know, so they first of all they register the members of NASA, and then maybe those who have registered can then vote for whom they think is their favorite. In that sense, or maybe they say, allow every party to participate, including the minor parties like Wavin and Ndetis in the nomination.
Right.
So it's a tricky thing. I don't know, they need the assistance of Solomon in terms of wisdom to come up with something that is, whichever way they go, they will need to work very hard to energize the populace, but they should also expect serious fallout in the whole in the process.
And beyond that, because even if they come together under this umbrella body of NASA, it is coming forth like a joint front against Jubilee. But the thing is, they will be fielding candidates in different parts of the country from the constituent parties, ODM, Wiper, and Ford. So will that kind of scuttle their chances?
Well, it will likely undermine in some areas.
Okay.
Not in all. And actually I can see why they would say, let every party field its candidates for the purposes of the turnout. Because if you do not have many candidates in a particular place that you think are your supporters, and the voters do not come out, if they are disgruntled. In fact, we had some complaints there, but I've talked to one or two people when I get a chance, and they make it very clear. If you have that joint nomination, it will mean that some people will be automatically booted out without fairness, and they are going to go. They've said that very clearly. So the joint nomination may be for the top level, the presidents and other things, but constituency and other places, it's not likely to work very well. And if it doesn't work very well, then it's too bad for them. The assumption that these, even irrespective of how they nominate people, you get the numbers in Parliament, because that's the key thing. And you have the numbers in Parliament that are on your side, irrespective of what they call themselves. Then that is the big thing. If they do not get the numbers that they need, and then they will have a problem. They will be complaining again about being minorities. And I think one of the concerns is how to avoid being a minority in Parliament. And how do you get the people turn out? And in some areas where there is kind of 50-50, the split will be a problem. They'll lose. But in some areas, the argument is, what are you aiming at here? Here the Parliament is maybe given that so-and-so is going to win. They know it in their mind. But the presidency, which becomes now an issue, how do you ensure that your candidate, the presidential candidate, gets as many votes as possible? And the only way to do that is to ensure that as many people turn out to vote. They just finished this exercise of registering voters. And they turn out to be disappointing, because despite all the effort put by leaders, going all over the country, urging people to take the vote, they still did not. Now, is that an indication of unhappiness that the voters have with particular leaders? If it is, that's a telling sign. those who then took the votes and those who already had it, the danger is that you may have the vote and then refuse to turn out.
Okay.
Now the big job to be done now is to persuade people, despite whatever, you have to come out and vote for the candidate of your choice in a particular office. And I think the thrust is going to be put on the presidency now, more than the councillors.
So you feel like if NASA takes too long to announce the flag bearer, this would actually hurt them a bit in terms of showing that they're concerted efforts?
Yes, it's going to happen. That's why. If they don't do it today, it will be a letdown to those who are supposed to be their supporters. Because, as I pointed out, at Bomas, when they were there was expectation they were going to tell the people who it is.
Which is, exactly.
You know, and they didn't. All they did is to make promises that they will stick together and dance a little bit. After that, there was nothing. Now, today, the hype that has come is that now this is it. This is it.
It's official.
It's official. So we've created a party, but it's already been there. So you just put in some signatures. But that's not the issue. The issue is not the signature on the document. The issue is who is the flag bearer. And once that is not settled, all the others are formalities. And so it is unfortunate for NASA, except for Mudavadi.
He's the only beneficiary in all this, according to you.
Yeah, he's the only beneficiary, because it is his baby. So they are talking about it. When you talk about NASA, you're talking about Mudavadi. So that's the benefit for him. But for the other three, they have a problem.
So beyond this agreement, how do they consolidate their efforts? Because you've been saying they're very fragmented in how they've been trying to rally their bases. How do they rally their bases and come together as United Front?
You see, if the base is disillusioned because the person they expected to be the flag bearer is not the one, then how do you go around telling people? And you know, some of these people create parties so that they can have relevance. If you look at NASA today, it's almost like a replay of the Pentagon without some of the generals.
Who have since defected
they
to
have
other...
since joined some other army. You know, but so what do you have here? We have the real general, Raila. Mudavadi was part of it. Kalonzo went on his own, then Katikati. Wetangula was with PNU at that time. So, but Wetangula then decided he wants to be seen to be relevant, so have a party. And so then be seen to be there as a player. But the desperate of this, Wetangula and Mudavadi are not desperate. But they want to be seen to be doing something. Desperation is Wiper. And that's where there's been a lot of talk that if he does not clinch it, Alfred Mutua will be smiling all the way because he's garnering a lot of people. If Raila does not clinch it, his base is already being eroded anyway. So Tuju will be very happy. In 2007, Tuju was campaigning and he had this slogan. Sometimes he used to go somewhere, say, "Maybe it's Siogopi." And so his Siogopi brigade is likely to gain more courage, more people. And we have seen indications that a lot of people who supposedly are Raila's people are already defecting. Let me add, I don't know whether it is an indicator that possibly concession of defeat in advance. When you have key supporters of Raila already indicating that they don't want to be in Nairobi after the election, so they want to be governors, or to have some other things, not to be working with the supposed president, because if they are key people, and if he clinches, he gets the presidency, he will need these people. But they want to be governors instead. What does that tell you?
Have they lost faith in him?
It's some kind of an indicator that they may not be very sure about what But they want to safeguard their political future in various places. We've seen some areas that previously you could never imagine people quarreling about positions.
Right.
But now there is a big fight.
Right.
And so, which are themselves telling that all is not well. So if Raila does not clinch that nomination, you can expect more of those splinter groups.
Yeah. All right. Let's cross over now to Kennedy Muriithi at the NASA headquarters in Lavington. Some developments there, Kennedy.
Sawa. Thank you very much, Victoria Rubadiri. We are still here at the NASA headquarters in Lavington, where the three principals have just arrived and they are waiting to be ushered into their seats, where they will sit for some time before they go and sign the coalition agreement. But as of now, we are joined by the chairman of ODM, John Mbadi. And Mheshimiwa, this agreement, how different is it from all the other agreements that have been signed before?
Now, first of all, you can't compare this agreement to the 2002 agreement, because that was an MOU. At least this one is an agreement that will be filed deposited with the registrar, and it's a legal agreement that will be recognized in law compared to the MOU that was signed in 2002. In 2013, we also had almost similar arrangement, but the difference is that this time we have a bigger coalition. Last time we had Ford Kenya, Wiper, and ODM. This time we have a Amani coalition joining us, and other parties that were not part of the CORD coalition. So it is a bigger outfit, it's a bigger coalition, but with a more cohesive and comprehensive agreement. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that in 2013 we didn't have enough time to negotiate and agree on this document. But this time round, at least we have enough time. We have enough time to discuss, thrash out issues, and actually even as we sign the agreement, this is just an agreement that we are signing to kickstart more negotiations as we go forward.
Have all the issues about suspicion between members been ironed out? Because there have been rumors that even some of your members are being approached, even the principals are being approached by Jubilee to join their fold. Have all the suspicion issues been ironed out?
Suspicions can never be eliminated where human beings relate, but I will tell you for a fact that the far that we have reached, it's highly unlikely that Jubilee is going to infiltrate this coalition. I think we were dismissed. Jubilee underrated us. They underrated the resolve of the people of Kenya to work together to bring good governance in this country. As we speak today, I will tell you as a matter of fact that we are likely to have a united outfit going forward. We have thrashed the main issues. There are some sticky issues that are still outstanding, but they are very few, and in the coming 2-3 weeks we'll be done with everything and we'll name our presidential candidate.
NASA is very optimistic about this agreement that is going to be signed today, but we have a history of this in this country where these coalition agreements are being disregarded. And how will you we have these things that are being disregarded?
I think we have learned our lessons previously, and I don't think anyone is ready again to play monkey business and to play with cards under the table. I think the difference is this time this is anchored in law, and the agreement that we are signing will be deposited with the registrar of political parties. We are going to make it public, so there is nothing that is going to be hidden. The moment we agree even who is occupying which positions, they will be made public. So this time round, I don't see anyone. But again, if you make a mistake of doing what others have done previously, then you stand the risk of losing the faith of Kenya, and you will be humiliated going forward.
There is the headache that is now being presented, and that is the headache of choosing a presidential candidate and also sharing out positions. What is your view as of now? The sharing of positions between the four principals. Who is going to be on top? Who is going to be the last one?
Let me tell you, I have no doubt that we are going to have one presidential candidate. Others will occupy other positions. It is not about positions in NASA. What we are for and what we are fighting for is to ensure we have good governance in this country. The principals are ready to sacrifice, and they have mentioned it a number of times. We have progressed very far. I'm withholding the details, but Kenyans those who are doubting us are in for a rude shock.
People might say that this is a cheeky question, but I would want to bring it to you that there are two very important positions. That is the president and the deputy president. How are these other two principals who are not going to fill those positions going to be catered for?
Yeah, you are likely to see an indication of the structure of what NASA is proposing shortly. So don't worry about it. That will be taken care of.
What of the presidential? When do we expect the presidential candidate?
I am sure in the next 2-3 weeks, almost you'll certainly get a presidential candidate. But even if it comes later, we still have time. Remember, even previously we used to have presidential candidates 2 months to election or even less. So we are not in a hurry. We will unveil our presidential candidate so long as we'll have one presidential candidate.
Thank you very much, Victoria. We are also joined by one of the NEC members of WIPA, and this is a young man by the name Ndwiga. I want him to tell us, WIPA has also been instrumental in this, and one of the coalition partners that is really being touted as a serious member who's holding on NASA is Kalonzo Musyoka. And Ndwiga, what are your full names?
My name is David Muriuki Ndwiga. Those are my full names. I actually hail from Embu County, and of course I live in Nairobi.
There is the Kalonzo factor in NASA. You as a party, what do you think? Should you be the president? What is the integral part that you do play in this political outfit called NASA?
Well, thank you very much. First of all, I want to say that the official spokesperson of our party is the Secretary General and the party leader. But I'll just say, as a leader in WIPA Democratic Movement Kenya, as a NEC member, is that we know the negotiations are still ongoing. It is our hope and prayer that our party leader, Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, will basically carry the day, bearing in mind that each candidate has been requested to nominate equal number of nominees to the committee that will decide on the flag bearer. So we trust that our party leader will definitely be favored.
Kalonzo has also been saying that it is either him or no. But he's even been quoted at some point saying that Raila has been tried, tested and failed enough times, but this is his time. Is that a position that people go with to a negotiation?
I will tell you that everybody has the right, to this presidential flag bearer. Of course, there's Wetangula, there is Mheshimiwa Mudavadi, Mheshimiwa Raila, and of course our party leader Kalonzo Musyoka. So it is not a hardline stand that he must be the flag bearer, but he's only asking out of goodwill from the other presidential candidates, that is Prime Minister Raila Odinga, Mheshimiwa Wetangula and Mheshimiwa Mudavadi, that they will find it easy in their hearts to endorse Mheshimiwa Kalonzo Musyoka as the flag bearer. So I would say that he's open-minded. He has even said before, of course I know he has said that he's the best person to take Jubilee home, but he has also said, maybe you have not reported, that he is also willing to become an MCA as long as we get Jubilee out of power, because Kenyans are suffering under the Jubilee regime.
So does that lock out the possibility of WIPA joining, you being an insider in WIPA, does that lock out the possibility of WIPA joining Jubilee anytime soon?
I will tell you here, and it is the same position yesterday and also tomorrow, that WIPA is not joining Jubilee whatsoever.
Thank you, Vicky. As I come back to you, those are some of the sentiments that are being echoed by leaders who are here, who are very optimistic of the deal that is just about to be signed, the coalition agreement that will chart the way forward for the leaders in the NASA coalition, which is going to be signed officially today, and it is going to be deposited at the registrar of political parties. From here, we are going to keep you updated. We see that there are so many leaders who have already come. We see some of them who recently defected into various parties in this coalition, and they are saying that this is their home as they head into the August 8th elections. Now we'll keep you updated. Now, as of now, we're just waiting for the principals to come and take their positions before they sign this coalition agreement and say what will happen afterwards. Also, we do expect them just to give a snippet of what will happen, whether it comes to power sharing and all that. It is a sticky issue that most of the people who are here today are waiting to see what will happen. Vicky?
All right, Kennedy, thanks for that. Kennedy Muriithi speaking to us from the NASA headquarters in Lavington as they prepare for the agreement signing by the 4 principals. Professor Munene, you heard Honorable Mbadi say that this was not about positions, this is about good governance. So that's why it will work. Do you buy that?
No.
Why?
John Mbadi is a good man. He's a good politician. So he knows what to say when. The reality on the ground is about power positions. Who gets what? Now, these documents they are going to sign presumably outlines the relationship.
Right.
And as you heard him say, you cannot eliminate a suspicion. So it's a good statement expected of the chairman of the ODM. Beyond that, you take it with a pinch of salt, not really to... The expectation from the NASA people is that they will be able to whip up emotions, which they have not done yet. Create an environment like the one that was there in 2002, whereby people were just excited and worked up, and or even in 1992, because there is an atmosphere that comes which catapults people to a higher level, and they have not done that yet. It does not mean that they cannot do it, but they have not done it. And so they have time to think how they can mobilize the people, but until they come up with a flag bearer, they will not be able to do it.
Okay, and Honorable Mbadi, said that they have a bigger outfit now, of course, with more parties coming in and a more comprehensive agreement.
Yeah.
Would that stand?
Yeah, they have a few more. I just saw my friend Kibuda Kibwana there saying that he has a party of his own, but he's part of the White Power coalition in that sense. If you look at CORD, until Musalia came in, it was 3 people. It was Raila, Kalonzo, and Wetangula. And now Musalia was looking for relevance, so he created, after he had problems with his UDF, it looks as if he was booted out of UDF. So he created his own party.
Amani National,
yes, he did that. And then after that, say now you have to look bigger than the other guys. So he created NASA. And I guess he indicated, we work together, you can have the ticket to whoever, as long as I'm in control.
Right.
So in that sense, but as I said, if you look at this NASA thing, it's Pentagon without some of the generals. Because Musalia was part of the Pentagon. There is less emotion involved in it. There is less hype. And NASA would appear to be a party of the future.
Okay.
For Mudavadi.
Okay.
For Raila, it is a good vehicle if it can work to deliver. The same thing with Kalonzo. But they have a long way to go to get to that expectation, and they need better strategies than they have right now. Better strategies of arousing emotions than they have so far. They need, I think, some of my good friends, they need to rethink some of their statements, because sometimes they make statements which don't make sense. And instead...
Statements such as?
They keep on saying we are going to send somebody home, this is, nothing has ever been done. When you say nothing has been done and people can see, you don't say, wait a minute, give us something more credible. And then at least, you need to acknowledge some things, even as you criticize. But you cannot be saying that there's nothing when people can see with their eyes. So when you say there's nothing, what does that do to an intelligent person? So there's something wrong with you.
But the numbers would beg to differ. There were some numbers released by the IEBC showing that the 2 coalitions are sharing new voters, which are about 3.7 million. Of course, this was on the cover of The Nation today. The headline was saying 13 counties hold state house key. So these are what you'd call, I guess, the swing counties. And they represent at least 5.4 million votes that are up for grabs between Jubilee and NASA. But when you look at the strongholds, that's in quotes, of course, because you said that still doesn't really exist. But the NASA strongholds and the Jubilee strongholds, it's almost a statistical dead heat between the two. Jubilee has 7.4 million, NASA 7.04 million. So the numbers are saying something different.
What are the numbers saying as we look at them today with the assumptions that are being made? To start with, once you start classifying counties as belonging to somebody, or to this person, to that person, I think it's wrong, because it's a misleading statement. It's also part of that balkanization effort. So there's Kikuyu place, Kiambu, yeah, they must all be Jubilee. You know, okay, Kisumu, they're all Raila. Wait a minute. And then you go to Eldoret, it must be Ruto. You know, these are things that can be misleading, because when the results come out and they are not exactly what you said they would be.
But usually those results are in tandem with those areas.
And then you go to Kitui or Machakos and you get something different. You start wondering, why did you make that assumption? You see, that's why whoever becomes the flag bearer, these classifications will change immediately, because the losers in this, whoever is perceived to be the loser, and is supposedly now his followers are being counted in one camp or the other. They're not going to be there. So these statistics, they are playing on the assumption that a particular leader has control on the voters in the place. And the truth is that that leader does not have control on the voter. He has a lot of following, yes, but not control.
Okay, let me read something from Mudavadi, the NASA leader, who says, strongholds based on ethnic arithmetic, that's now what has been kind of touted. But the new voters are young Kenyans who are not concerned about tribal alignments. So they seem to be just going after new voters, regardless of where their tribal...
I would agree. I think Musalia is making some sense there. Because there are a lot of people, and that's why I said earlier, they want to see, how do you sell yourself? Do you make sense or not? If you do not make sense, it does not matter what your ethnic affiliation is. It does not matter, because people are looking for somebody who makes sense. Now, the young voters, the new registered, 3 point something. We did not hit the target, but 3 point is not too bad. And they are looking, some of them, yes, will fall into that category, because their mothers and fathers are some of them. But most of them are raising questions. Who is the best candidate?
Right, thinking differently, or ideology.
They are looking for something to hold on, which is not been offered by the leadership on both camps. Let's not say that it's not just NASA, it's also Jubilee, because we have the same feeling of apathy across the board.
All right, thank you, Professor. Let's take a short break. Professor Munene is still staying with us. We'll also be joined by Adams Olo to make more sense of what this NASA agreement will mean for the political landscape. Let's take a short break here on NTV Today. We'll be right back. right, thanks for staying with us. I'm Victoria Rubadiri. NTV Today continues, and we cross over to the NASA headquarters where Adams Olo, political analyst, he's also one of the members of the technical team that was drafting the NASA agreement. Just to take us through, at least without divulging too much, Adams, if you can hear me, what the agreement entails that will make the difference for NASA.
First, let me clarify that I wasn't a member of the technical committee. But what I can tell you is that what you are going to see today is basically the signing of the instrument that gives life to the NASA coalition. And to that extent, it will be the different political parties that will constitute the membership of NASA will be signing up, and the same document will then be taken to the registrar of political parties. And therefore you can say that after this event, then the NASA train or horse will have taken off the stable towards August 8th.
I'm here with Professor Munene, and he says that this is all cosmetic. What do you make of that statement?
Well, that's to be expected when you have an analyst who is leaning on one side. The truth of the matter is that coalitions have been with us from 2002. We had NAC in 2002, it wasn't cosmetic. We had PNU in 2007, it wasn't cosmetic. We had Jubilee Coalition in 2013, it wasn't cosmetic. We had the Code Coalition in 2013, it wasn't cosmetic. So unless he wants to say that it is only when Jubilee is a coalition is when it's not cosmetic, Kenyans know the truth.
Adams, out of all those coalitions that you have named that existed and still do exist, what do you think is going to make the difference for NASA in the 2017 general election?
What is going to make the difference in NASA is basically that since 2002, the electoral process has been a two-horse race. If you go to 202, there was KANU and NAC, but there was also Ford people, and it came a distant third. If you go to 207, there was ODM and PNU, but there was also ODM Kenya, and it came a distant third. If you go to 2013, there was Jubilee and CORD. And there was also a Amani Coalition, which came a distant third. So now you have Jubilee Party and NASA Coalition. Any other coalition or party will be a donkey.
All right.
So this is another two-horse race. That's what NASA means today.
Okay, let me rope in Professor Munene in on this. You've heard what Adam Dolo has mentioned about what would make the difference for NASA. Are you convinced by what he said?
I think, as I pointed out earlier, the fact that they are not telling us who the flag bearer is makes this a cosmetic exercise, because it will not be able to rejuvenate the voters, to mobilize them to see until they come up with that, because they're having a major problem agreeing on what it is that they want to do. So yes, I did say it is, the exercise today is cosmetic, and it is true, as Adam pointed out, there have been coalitions before, and the nature of coalitions is to be short-lived, and they don't last very long after the fact. PNU is right, CORD. Now, so CORD, the coalition called CORD, is killing itself.
And Adams, what do you make of that? Because, you know, Professor Munene is saying that NASA's efforts have been fragmented because of the four principals not seeming to agree on who should take the lead.
Well, if you go back to 2002, you will find that there were nearly 5 potential aspirants. There was Mwai Kibaki, there was Raila Odinga, there was Kalonzo Musyoka, there was George Saitoti, there was Charity Ngilu. But at the end of the day, they finally agreed on one leader. Fast track that to 2013. If you go to Jubilee, there was Uhuru Kenyatta and there was William Ruto, and they finally agreed. And you go to CORD, there was Raila Odinga and there was Kalonzo Musyoka, and they finally agreed. So when you're forming a coalition, it is normal for the politicians to each feel that they should carry the flag. So that is not anything new. At the end of the day, the fact that they are signing the instrument today, that's the first step forward. As the Chinese say, a journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. And I can tell you, Victoria, watch the space. They'll come up with one candidate who will face Jubilee.
Adam, let me ask you a small question. You mentioned 202 and the others, but yes. If you notice in 202, there was a leading candidate and the others simply joined the winning side instead of joining the losing side.
That's not.
That's what happened in 202.
Okay, let's let him respond.
Yeah. So who is the leading candidate right now?
I can remind you because the facts don't lie. There was NAK.
Yes.
Which was led by Mwai Kibaki.
Yes.
And there was the Rainbow Coalition, which walked away of KANU, and which could as well decided to have fielded their candidates. But because they were facing an incumbent who was transigent, who had already nominated a particular candidate, and when you have a tight race and you go three-way, the state machinery can usually be used. So the Kibaki Tosha was meant to divide the Central Kenya vote in order not to give a chance to the choice of the then president. That's the truth of what happened.
Right, Professor.
Thank you for agreeing with me. So the Rainbow joined the winning side. And that's it.
I don't agree with you.
Because they had a choice of being a candidate, and because...
Okay, let's have Adams just respond. Go ahead, Adams.
Go and look at those results. You will find that the LDP wing brought more votes than NAK. Check your facts again, Professor.
Thank you, Adam. I've checked my facts, and thank you for agreeing that the Rainbow joined the winning side.
Okay, Adams,
I didn't agree with you. I didn't agree with you.
Okay, Adams, just to follow up on that, because after this agreement is signed, this coalition, at least the hope is that they will transcend other general elections after 2017. What will they need to do to ensure that NASA coalition is a viable force beyond 2017?
Well, what needs to happen is what you can call an agreement that is based on faith and trust, an agreement that is based on a structure, an agreement that is based on living up to the agreement. If you remember NAC, there was an MOU which was more of a gentleman's agreement and was not deposited by any official organ of the state. And therefore, the NAK wing should change the LDP wing as soon as they got to power, because there was nothing binding. This one of NAC has something which is binding, which is going to be deposited with the Registrar of Political Parties, and therefore will have a legality to it.
Now, Adams, let's touch on
And it is also about Kenyans.
Right.
Who want change.
Let's touch on the sticky issue here, which is the power sharing deal. And there's been talk of Raila and Kalonzo jostling for that position of being the flag bearer for NASA. What do you make of that, and who do you think would probably be the stronger candidate for that position?
Just come again, I didn't get you.
Yes, there's been a talk about who will take the flag bearer position, at least between Kalonzo and Raila jostling for that position. When it comes to the power sharing deal, what would be the ideal structure for NASA?
Well, let me say this. In any democratic process, globally, even the just ended US election, you know that there was a close race between, let's say, Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. And when finally Hillary Clinton was declared as the candidate of the Democratic Party, you saw Bernie Sanders, albeit reluctantly, coming to support Hillary Clinton against the final winner, in this case, Donald Trump. So the same will happen between the four principles, that whoever will be finally endorsed, the rest will come out and back them. And the nature of politics is that every politician feels that they are a winner, and therefore the jostling is normal, like in any primary of deciding who shall be the candidate.
And Professor Munene had actually responded to this, saying that there would be a fallout if certain candidates did not get that position. What do you make of that?
Well, fallouts are not strange in politics. They are not strange in politics, and therefore I can't categorically say that I'm so certain that there'll be no fallout. But what I can tell you is that at the end of the day, Kenyans who are pro-opposition want change. And if you abandon the ship, just like Nyachai abandoned the ship in 2002, the people forgot about him. Just like ODM Kenya abandoned the ship in 2007, the people left them. And just like Amani abandoned the ship, the people ignored them. So whoever will abandon the ship, the people will do what they have always done at the ballot.
All right, Adams Olo, thank you for joining us. Just hold that thought. We're about to cross over to Sheila Sendeo, who is at the University of Nairobi, covering the lecturer strike there. Sheila, do let us know what is happening now. Of course, the lecturers not showing any sign of stopping or slowing down in their industrial action. What's happening right now?
University Academic Staff Union, and they are going to the streets to protest better terms of service. And this is bringing together all the unions from all the major universities. This is the lecturers union from all the major universities. They want better terms of service, and they will be marching right now to the office of the Cabinet Secretary in charge of education, Dr. Fred Matiang'i, to demand answers as to why the demands have never been met. So they were here at the University of Nairobi Graduation Square to mobilize themselves, and then shortly they will be marching through the streets of Nairobi to Jogoo House to seek audience to the Ministry of Higher Education. But what they say right now is that negotiations between them and the government have failed. The government gave them what they said was a counter-offer of 10 billion shillings that they were meant to share with the other unions representing other workers working within the universities. And they say that is not enough. And what they want is the implementation of the 2013-20 to 2017 collective bargaining agreement that guarantees them better pay. And they're saying they will not go back to work until that issue is addressed. So this is an escalation, I would say, of the work boycott that has been going on for more than 3 weeks now. It's going into its 4th week. That has paralyzed learning in institutions of higher learning in major universities. There haven't been any learning going on. The lecturers are now going to the streets to see if at all their issues or their concerns will be addressed. So they are mobilizing right now, and they will start their march to the Ministry of Education. And what they say they want is 17 billion shillings that they can share among the lecturers themselves, and they will call off the strike. But until now, they haven't received any form of offer yet from the government, apart from the 10 billion shillings that they rejected. They're saying it's not enough because they have to share amongst themselves. And also in that counter offer, there was also the issue of pensions, and they're saying they had not negotiated for any pensions, and they're saying they need more money and they will not go back to work until their issues are addressed. Just listening to some of the sights and sounds from this protest.
The sights and sounds of the lecturers' strike there at the University of Nairobi. Sheila Sendeo just bringing us up to speed in terms of what the lecturers have been demanding. They rejected the 10 billion shilling allocation to them, terming it as an embarrassment to their profession. So they continue marching until they get the terms that they have been demanding for. Let's continue on with the conversation on the agreement yet to be signed by the NASA principals. Joining me, of course, is Professor Macharia Munene, and from the NASA headquarters is Adams Olo. Professor Munene, you had a question for Adams before we...
Yeah, Adam, I think you mentioned that it might take about 2-3 weeks, maybe 4, before NASA comes up with a flag bearer. What is the sticking point? Why can't they come up with their flag bearer earlier or even today. What's wrong?
Adams, I don't know if you heard Professor Munene asking about why it's taking so long for NASA to pick a flag bearer for the coalition.
Victoria, I don't know whether Professor looks at trends both in this country and outside. I want to remind him, and he better check his facts correctly, because he seems to be forgetting facts, and yet he's a historian. When did NAC unveil its candidate? In 2002. I want to remind him that it was less than 3 months before the elections. I want to also remind him that when ODM chose its candidate in 2007, it was less than 3 months to the elections. I want to further remind him that when both Jubilee Coalition and Code Coalition unveiled their candidates in 2013, it was almost 3 months to the elections. And I want to remind him that in the recent US elections, both the Republican Party and the Democratic Party unveiled their candidates less than 3 months to the elections. All over the world, it is common knowledge, it's not any rocket science, that it is only incumbents who always have their candidate well in advance. The opposing groups all over the world, and I challenge him to mention one country that has defied that, always unveil their candidates around 3 months to the elections. We still have 5.5 months, Professor. Don't worry, NASA will give you a candidate.
No, that is not the question, Adam. The question is...
Really quickly, because we have to move on to another segment.
Yes.
What is the sticking point? There has been a series of disappointments.
There's no sticking
NASA
point.
was at Bomas
There's no sticking
and
point.
failed. Now you hyped up today, it's failing again. So what is the reason for this failure?
It's not failing. That's because it is you. It's you, just like Jubilee that you represent, who has been trying to hurry NASA. NASA won't be hurried by Jubilee. You have your candidate, and you have your problems of which parties you want to join you, which are going to cause constipation in the Rift Valley. NASA is quite okay in their baby steps.
All right, Adams, we have to leave it there.
At a candidate.
We have to leave it there, Adams. Thank you so much. We'll be joining you a bit later on, of course, after the signing of the agreement between the NASA principals. Thank you again. And let's cross over to the Labor Relations Parliamentary Committee. They're meeting the KMPDU officials who are making statements there. Leila Mohammed has been following the proceedings. Let's close over now and find out what's been happening there.
Everyone. I mean, if that is what you have arranged, unless you are the only who is speaking today.
No problem. Actually, I was about to
if you can address yourself to the petitioners' prayers to Parliament, then you'll be helping this committee understand the problem that you're facing, or your side of the story concerning this matter of the strike.
Thank you, Chair. One of our first prayers is actually the CPA. I thought the background would be important, but thank you. I will summarize. So, the short of this is that the union has engaged in all mechanisms that are allowed in the Acts and also the Constitution to ensure that this dispute is resolved, including presenting other proposals, and this has not been happening. And therefore, on the 14th of November last year, we did actually issue a 21-day strike notice that commenced on the 5th of December 2016. And this petition was presented to Parliament during this strike. And if you look at the number one issue of the prayer was this Parliament and this committee is actually calling on the government to negotiate with utmost good faith. That background that I was trying to give is to prove the reason why we called on Parliament to engage government on the issue of good, because that good faith in a court dispute that we had over the same CPA, the court had noted that the union has been frustrated to an extent that parts of the constitution have been violated. And part of our prayer then is that ending this stalemate means that the committees that are here, that's the Committee of Labor and the Committee of Health, should come out very strongly as representatives of Kenyans to hold accountable the employers of doctors in public sector. They have to demonstrate good faith. The fact that this strike has been going on for the last 80 days means that good faith is lacking. And we know that Parliament is a strong voice of Kenyans, not just in making laws, because you represent Kenyans who are the ones that are suffering. We know that you can solve this problem at very many levels. We know that you can hold accountable both the national government ministries and the county governments to come to the table with clean hands and to engage towards a solution, not on sideshows. The issues that have prolonged this stalemate also relate to other government constitutional commissions like SRC, for example, for which workers in this country, doctors, have also mentioned that their advice on public sector remuneration may be being overstretched because they are now setting salaries and therefore making work redundant. I think this Parliament, being the House of Authority for Laws, can investigate and set very clear what the role of constitutional commissions like SRC pertains, and particularly in labor disputes, because then it defeats the mandate of everyone, Constitution Article 41, and then have another body that negates that same function of unions to collectively bargain with employers. Moving on to asked for the commencement of legislative processes towards creation of a health service authority. There are lack of standards in management of human resources for health. And these standards are to the discrimination of health professionals, and particularly doctors. The net effect of it is that there are a number of Kenyans, there are a number of regions that are deliberately being denied access to healthcare, being denied access to doctors, because of lack of standards in how we manage human resources. And these standards pertain to standards of employment, standards of distribution, standards of payment, and therefore we are having a situation where particular county governments and even the Ministry of Health discriminate on doctors on issues that relate to all of this that I've mentioned. And that is why we believe that this Parliament can begin legislative processes that standardizes management of human resources for health across the board for the sake of this country, so that we
All right, that was the KMPDU Secretary General, Dr. Oluga, speaking before the Parliamentary Labour Relations Committee. The point he left off on was challenging the Parliament to put together a legislative framework to manage the human resources in the health sector. Of course, we're expecting the mediators of the talks, the Doctors' Union and the government, to present their case to the Court of Appeals, a 3-judge bench. That will be tomorrow. I hear the signal is back up. We'll go back to Dr. Oluga addressing the Labour Relations Committee.
The international hospital budget has been cut by 1.5 billion. This parliament is the parliament that holds the government accountable and that passes budgets. Are we trying to say that health is not that important? Especially now that we know the population of the country is increasing, the health burden is increasing in terms of diseases, more non-communicable diseases. And it is important for this parliament to look keenly into issues of budget. Indeed, even as we talk about our collective bargaining agreement, these are issues of budget. We have mentioned that to implement this 1 billion. In our own opinion, this parliament can pass one day and allocate it and ring-fence it as a conditional grant to counties. The counties also do not delay salaries and delay promotions of doctors. Thank you, and I will invite my colleagues to proceed.
I think you've tried to explain the prayers, so I hope they'll take shortest time possible so that we can have some time to interact with you.
Thank you,
and
Chair.
Also, I would like to ask our Secretariat to confirm for us the matter of budget that he has raised, so that we speak from our point of knowledge. So kindly check that for me. Please proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. We all understand as Kenyans that
minutes
so
that we can interact.
Yes.
Thank you.
I will. I go straight to the prayers which we asked for, and I pick from where he left on budget allocation. Kenya signed a budget declaration in 2001 of 15% of the national GDP to health sector in this country. Parliament to take steps in ensuring that this national commitment to cater for universal health coverage, which as doctors in this country have been pushing for. Because we have realized in health economics, when you look at the production, you need to focus on how the work of the doctors and health professionals contribute to the economy of the country. When Kenyans are healthy, they go to the field to produce, and we contribute indirectly to the growth of the economy, and this needs to be taken into consideration. Also, we, in number 6 of our petition, we are asking for conditional grants to the counties, in especially the of our staff, the professionals in health sector. Because as we realize, money counties as lump sum, then they decide to distribute in different sectors. Sometimes they take money meant for salaries to use in doing other projects like paying tenderers and doing other projects like building roads. I've had doctors call for 6 months salaries, and yet the national government has released money meant for salaries, but yet it is diverted to do. So if money meant for salaries could be protected and given to counties as conditional grants, so that it can serve the purpose it is intended for at that particular stage. We also, a long time, whenever doctors ask for review of the terms of service, they are constrained by the existing structures in the civil service, whereby we are informed that whatever we are asking for falls outside the structures and they will distort the structures. And I want to on record that when we met, the head of state as a union, there was a commitment that we could be given a different grading structure which is unique for the doctors, that will enable doctors to negotiate their terms
without necessarily distorting the existing mainstream civil service structures. And we believe that this National Assembly, these committees, which will enable doctors to have their own grading structure, which will enable them to without distorting the existing structures in the service. Also, the purpose we are asking for enactment of a law which will have standardized management of human resources for health is based on the experiences which we have had in the county since devolution. And I want to go on record that as KMBDU, we are not opposed to devolution of health. What we need is a standardized management of human resources for health. And this has to be very clear because for a long time you have been informed that the KMBD is opposing devolution. We are not opposed. It's a central body to manage human resource. And even counties can have representation in that body so that when we have recruitment and deployment of the human resource for health, it should not be based on your surname. Because for the last 3 years, we have had doctors being rejected from counties based on their surname. And we believe this House has got the responsibility to ensure that we make Kenya to be one Kenya. And in 1965, when teachers didn't have a central body, Parliament came on board to have an act of Parliament which created a central body to manage teachers. And we believe this can be done by this assembly. So our prayers are and very clear. We need centralized management of human resource. We need a structure for doctors to negotiate their terms. And we need continuous and progressive increment of budget allocation to help.
Thank you, Patrick. I hope we have listened to you, unless you want to continue talking, because these members seated here, I'm sure they have issues that they would like to raise. So I would like to open the floor, but since I see a lady seated next to you, I'd like to hear the lady's voice. Speak. I see that you're raising G and H, you're talking about a law. If you can try to expound too. I would like to have, please table what has been presented by the two ideas. This is a house of records, so what you tell us needs to be tabled. So I would like to have on here what you have just presented to Parliament. Please proceed.
Thank you very much. I'll take less time because most of the issues have been addressed. And I think I'll basically restrict myself to the ongoing doctor strike and how it has been handled. Part of the prayers that we've brought to this honorable house is that they should be able to hold the leaders that we have in the ministries that are concerned with health accountable for all the issues that have gone on in this strike. We believe that having a doctor strike for 8 days is not a small feat. It's very important because we represent Kenyans who have been suffering, they are dying, and the union alone cannot be, held accountable for the process, because we believe that negotiations and engagements are supposed to take place between the two levels, that's the union and the employer. So I would like to pray or request the House to hold them accountable so that they can be requested, number one, to be committed in the negotiations by giving the proper representation, and number two, to stop using propaganda to scuttle the negotiations and the processes that are going on to try and solve the problem. Then lastly, there is also an issue that has come up very strongly, and we as a union take exception to that, and that is the ethnic profiling of our union officials. So I would like to state categorically that KMPDU is a union that has union officials both at the national level and at the branch level, whereby we have representation in all the branches, and we also have representation in the national level. So in every sort of leadership, we have a member from every branch, from Coast, from Central, from personally I'm from Rift Valley, that's Uasin Gishu, and I have colleagues here from Mombasa, I have others from Nyanza. Sorry to say that this matter was raised by the REM raised this matter of the fact that you do, and from where I sit, I say that I do not want this matter discussed here. Would you like us now to focus on your prayer? Would you like us now to focus on the face of Kenya? So this was just because we had ruled, or I ruled that this should not be a subject of discussion. That's all right. It was also an issue now that is scuttling. And I realized that one of you also brought the same matter of doctors being discriminated based on their surname. I decided to ignore what he said, but now that you are bringing it up, would you like it to be a matter of discussion in a different session? Because I don't want it to happen now. I think in a different session it can be discussed. So the only prayer I was requesting was that the ministry officials also be encouraged, or encouraged to hold the negotiations. All want to have a solution at the end of the day, so that Kenyans can stop dying, because this is a process that has been protracted so much. If we come to the table committee, so let's agree that that matter should now rest, so that we can focus on the petition. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for your presentation. And as I said, I would like what has been said by the three of you to be placed on this desk, so that we can use it for our discussions. Honorable members, you have listened. We have given more time to the petitioners so that they can explain the issue at hand. We are aware that as we sit here this morning, Kenyans do not have the health workers and the doctors, so that you raise to the petitioners. It's your turn, honorable members. Matters that concern health, I'll deal with matters that concern health. I would also like the chair for labor to introduce himself, because matters that concern labor, then he is the one that will raise. But the honorable members, you can interchange. Doesn't mean that if you're in the health committee, you cannot raise a labor issue, because you're handling this together. So it's your turn, Chair. Labor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is David Were, MP for Matungu in Kakamega. You are welcome. I'll catch up because I didn't hear the presentations, but as time goes, I'm sure I'll be with you. Thank you. Chair.
Salute. The Honorable Dr. Musimba.
I want to introduce myself. I'm Serut John, Member of Parliament, Mount Elgon, and a member of the Labour Committee. Chair, it's unfortunate that we have no doctors in our hospitals, public hospitals, because of issues to do with the terms and conditions of our. Chair, I want a clarification on 2 or 3 issues. Issue number 1, Chair, is the issue of this animal called the CPA. When does this document called CPA become a legal instrument? Is it after registration or once it is entered in by the parties? 2, Chair, is whether this instrument that CPA issue, that maybe I would want want to understand is that suppose the SRC, or we're supposed to register that particular instrument, fails, does it automatically, is it recognized automatically as a legal instrument? Thank you, Chair.
We would like several to be.
Chair, I was just
The pictures of the lecturers making their way to the Cabinet Secretary's Office of Labor, of course, continuing on with their industrial action. In fact, just yesterday, the WASU National Secretary General Constantine Wasonga pointed out that even though they have been striking for a little over a month now, time is not a factor. They are still demanding better terms. As I had mentioned earlier, they rejected the 10 billion shilling allocation from government as an embarrassment to their profession. And the Secretary General Wasonga said they would continue this industrial action for as long as it takes, pointing out that in 2004, it went for a good 8 or 9 months before they settled on an agreement. So these are live pictures coming to you of the lecturers making their way down to the office of the Cabinet Secretary for Labor to make their demands known. It has been going on for a little over a month now. The Secretary General wondered why the government was quick to increase packages for politicians, Attorney General and other civil servants, and not demonstrating the same to teaching staff in public universities in the country. And that, of course, is what scuttled a lot of the negotiation talks that were going on from last week that actually halted when they couldn't agree on the pay agreement for the lecturers. If you're just joining us now, these are live pictures of the lecturers who were making their way from the University of Nairobi over to the office of the Cabinet Secretary for Labor to make known their grievances throughout this industrial action. The lecturers have urged the Auditor General, Edward Oko, to inform the government how the parallel cash is being used in public universities countrywide, adding that they are not beneficiaries of the funds. I'd like to now bring in Professor Munene. You've been watching this with me in studio. You are a fellow lecturer. What do you make of all of this?
These it's acts of desperation. It is true that the lot of the university dons, as they call themselves, dons, is not a happy one.
Right.
And it's been deteriorating over decades, not improving. And that's why just the other day the CS was saying that the standards have gone down the drain.
Right, right.
And,
Professor, let me just stop you there. I hear that the principals of the NASA coalition are making their way in there at the NASA headquarters to pave way for the signing of the agreement that will now officially launch the NASA coalition. That will include, of course, the Wiper Party, ODM, Ford Kenya, and the ANC. NASA, of course, is the baby of Musalia Mudavadi, who is the Amani National Congress leader, and will be waiting to see what this actually means in terms of the signature of this agreement. Later, of course, they will be presenting that agreement to the Registrar of Political Parties, and from then on they will also be required to put together a power sharing deal of how the four principals will share out their positions. Let's head over now and take you to listen in to the happenings there at the NASA headquarters in Lavington.
Heshima yenyu, I am requesting that we remain upstanding. As soon as we are ready to start, we shall proceed with the national anthem and then proceed with a word of prayer. Naomba makofi mazuri wakati vinara wenza wanaingia hapa ukumbini.
NASA
Naam.
Basi ikiwa tumesimama hivyo, naomba vinara wetu wapendwa ili tuweze kusimama kwa wimbo wa taifa. Nakumbuka kwamba tutaimba stanza zote 3. DJ tafadhali.
Asante. Tukiwa tumesimama, ningemwomba Sheikh Twaha pamoja na Bishop Abuka waje watuweke mbele zake Mwenyezi Mungu.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Kwa jina la Mwenyezi Mungu mwingi wa rehma mwenye kurehemu. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Sifa njema zinastahiki wewe Mwenyezi Mungu muumba mbingu na ardhi. Arrahmanir Rahim, mwingi wa rehma mwenye kurehemu. Maliki yaumiddin, mwenye kuimiliki siku ya malipo. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Peke yako ndio tunayekuabudu na wewe peke yako ndio tunayekuomba msaada. Ihdina siratal mustaqim, tuongoze katika njia iliyonyoka. Siratal ladhina an'amta alayhim, njia ya wale ambao umewaneemesha. Ghairil maghdubi alayhim, tukuomba usituongoze katika njia ya wale waliopotea, wale uliowakasirikia. Tukuomba Mwenyezi Mungu ibariki Kenya, ijalie iwe na amani wakati huu tunapoelekea katika uchaguzi. Tukuomba Mwenyezi Mungu ibariki NASA na uijalie iwe ni yenye kunasa na kunasua matatizo yanayowazonga wa Kenya. Tukuomba Mwenyezi Mungu wabariki viongozi wote wa NASA wakiongozwa na Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga, Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, Musalia Mudavadi na Moses Wetangula. Tukuomba Mwenyezi Mungu viongozi hawa washikanishe waweze kutukomboa Kenya na kututoa sisi katika wimbi la giza ambalo kwamba limebugika Kenya, na serikali ya Jubilee waweze kuwapeleka nyumbani. Tukuomba Mwenyezi Mungu tubariki na wabariki viongozi wetu, washikanishe wawe kitu kimoja mpaka watukomboe sisi, watupeleke katika State House. Tukuomba Mwenyezi Mungu tukiamini umetukubalia maombi yetu. Amin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Bishop Abuka, please.
Wacha na tuinamishe vichwa vyetu tuombe. Baba muumba mbingu na dunia, Mungu mwenye enzi, agano lako linasema katika Zaburi 133, tazama inayopendeza jinsi hii wandugu wakikaa pamoja, hapo ndio Mungu anamwaga baraka zake. Leo hii katika pembe zote za nchi yetu tunayoipenda, Bwana, tunaweza kuthibitisha kwamba tumeona mkono wako, kwamba wandugu wamekuja pamoja. Kenya imekuja pamoja Bwana, bila kutazama ukabila, dini au rangi, ili kwa uwezo wako Bwana, tukitii sauti yako, nchi yetu ikombolewe. Bwana, umesababisha hii ili uangamize ile madharau ya kidini, madharau ya kisiasa na madharau ya uchumi, ili heshima ya nchi yetu tukufu ipate kurudi tena kimataifa. Asante Bwana kwa chama cha NASA Bwana, tukiongozwa na viongozi ambao umeteua wakiwa kama wachungaji wetu, Bwana Raila Amolo Odinga, Bwana Kalonzo Musyoka, Bwana Musalia Mudavadi na Bwana Moses Wetangula. Kwa moja pamoja kama taifa Bwana, tunashukuru tukisema kwamba wasikanishe pamoja, ili meli hii ambayo imeng'oa nanga ikomboe Kenya, heshima yetu iturudie, uchumi yetu ikue, umoja wetu ipatikane, na watu wote wapate kusherekea utukufu wa Mungu. Asante kwa kutenda hii, na tutakumbuka Bwana kusherekea na kurudishia wewe shukrani zote wakati tunaingia katika malango ya State House mwezi wa Agosti mwaka huu, kwa utukufu wa jina lako. Ni katika jina la Yesu Kristo tumeomba tukiamini.
Na basi kwa heshima kuu naomba tupate kuketi. Tunaenda kwa awamu nyingine ya program yetu. Naomba sote tuwe watulivu kwenye viti vyetu. Kelly, tuelekeze kwa awamu inayofuata ya program.
Asante mwenzangu Bagi. Basi wabunge wetu wote na wageni wetu tuliofika kwenye hafla hii, viti vyote vikiwa vimehifadhiwa, ninaomba tu kwa kibwagizo tu tuweze kutoa vibwagizo zetu nikisema ODM NASA. Twende ODM! Wiper! Ford Kenya, NC. Asante. Basi kwa heshima na taadhima, ningemuweza kwa wakati huu niweze kumuita seneta wa Siaya Mheshimiwa James Orengo ili aweze kuendelesha ratiba baada ya hapo. Tumkaribishe kwa makofi tafadhali.
Thank you very much. We are going to have a very short ceremony, a signing ceremony of the NASA coalition agreement. And I want to say, for anybody who thought that opposition unity is impossible in Kenya, today is your answer. For anybody who thought that NASA is just a dream, please today wake up, because NASA is here and the journey has begun. So the order of business today is going to be as follows. I'm going to call upon the principles in the order in which the document has been formulated to come forward and sign the coalition agreement, and each principle will be accompanied by the Secretary General of the respective political party, who shall countersign the coalition agreement after the principal or the party leader of each respective party has signed. After they have all signed, we are going to have a statement, an official statement delivered for purposes of today's occasion. And then our party leaders and principals are going to make some remarks. And at the conclusion of the ceremony, all the Secretary Generals of all the constituent parties will take all the documents, all the relevant documents, with the resolutions of all the parties that they have agreed to form the National Super Alliance, and proceed to the Registrar of Political Parties to deposit the documents. And from about 2 o'clock today, NASA will not just be a dream, NASA will be properly registered under the Political Parties Act. So as you live here today, know that NASA is no longer a dream, and NASA is now here to stay. So without any further ado, I'll call upon the party leader and principal of NASA, party leader of Amani National Congress, together with the Secretary General, to come forward and sign the coalition agreement. I thank you. Your Excellency, Honorable Mudavadi. NASA, NASA, kamata kamata, kamata kamata. Now I call upon Principal and Party Leader of Ford Kenya, the Forum for the Restoration of Democracy in Kenya, together with the Secretary General, to come and sign the coalition agreement. Honorable Mishi Mboko, I may have to call you here to do the the NASA calls. Thank you very much. Now, let us proceed. Now, we call upon co-principal of NASA and party leader of the Orange Democratic Movement, Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. Now, okay, thank you. It's a happy day. Now it is my privilege and honor to call upon a co-principal of NASA and party leader of Wiper Democratic Movement Party of Kenya to come and sign the coalition agreement. Nikisema Wiper NASA. Wiper! 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 Ford Kenya! Ford Kenya! ANC! ANC! ODM! ODM! Now we have an agreement, signed, sealed, and delivered. Now the next stage of this program, I am going to call upon co-principal and party leader of Ford Kenya and leader of the minority in the Senate to come and read a statement and thereafter make some few remarks. Senator Wetangula.
Sawa sawa. Wakenya hamjambo. Hamjambo tena. Muna furaha kama mimi? Asante sana. This is a statement by the National Super Alliance, NASA, at the unveiling of the coalition agreement on February the 22nd, 2017. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Kenyans, on January 11th, 2017, we gathered at Bomas of Kenya and committed ourselves to uniting all progressive forces under one political movement, the National Super Alliance, NASA, to liberate our beloved nation from the misrule of Jubilee administration. 3 weeks ago, we established a national coordinating committee and tasked it to spearhead the process. Today, we have invited you here to witness the next milestone in this endeavor, namely the signing of our coalition agreement. Upon the signing of this agreement, and its lodging with the Registrar of Political Parties today, the NASA coalition will be both a political and legal reality. The coalition agreement that we are signing today is first and foremost our agenda for the nation. This is not a formula for sharing power and dishing out positions. This is a formula for solving the many problems our country is facing. This is our formula for putting honesty at the center of the management of public affairs. This is our roadmap for the returning hope and happiness to our land. It is our plan for a firm, fair, committed, and caring leadership. The document we unveil today outlines how different we are from Jubilee. Our promise to the people of Kenya is as follows. We will promote national unity. We will uphold, guard, and respect the dignity of all individuals and communities. We will return the country to the path of constitutional and democratic development. We will end the culture of impunity. We will restore sanity in the management of our economy and public affairs. To achieve this, we have agreed on 7 pillar policy platforms as follows. 1, national reconciliation and healing. 50 years after independence, our nationhood remains fragile. As a nation, we have never been more divided than we are today. We need to come out of denial and accept that tribalism is tearing our nation apart. We as the NASA coalition believe that this is one of the most critical threats to our nation. We need to confront this scourge honestly and boldly. We will institute a national dialogue so that we can talk to each other and agree on how to deal with the issues that divide us. Number 2, resolving historical injustices. Atrocities and injustices against communities have stalked this land since the British arrived on these shores a century ago. Historical injustices are one of the issues that stand in the way of national unity. The Jubilee administration's refusal to implement the TJRC report reflects the difficulties that we continue to have as a society in acknowledging, confronting, and resolving historical injustices. We as the NASA coalition believe that the truth will set us free. We commit to put in place a mechanism that addresses all the grievances that Kenyans feel have been inflicted on them. It is not for the state to set the boundaries and limits of people's grievances, as we have done in the past, including the TJRC report. Number 3, realizing equality of women, youth, persons with disabilities, and the disadvantaged communities and groups as mandated by the Constitution in Article 27. From the NYS scandal, the plundered youth and women funds, affirmative action for the elitist women in the country, there is no arena that the Jubilee administration has been as cynical and abusive as in the women and youth agenda. The NASA coalition is bound by this constitutional mandate because it is the will of the people of Kenya. As part of this commitment, we have adopted in our coalition agreement the requirement that all our coalition structures and organs fulfill this constitutional requirement. Number 4, strengthening devolution. The NASA coalition is unequivocal that devolution is the foundation of our constitutional democracy. We are committed to strengthening it to the fullest extent possible. The NASA coalition will immediately surrender to the county governments all the functions and the corresponding resources that the Jubilee coalition has either withheld or usurped. The NASA coalition will also work to share out other functions where it makes sense to do so, notably development of school infrastructure and some aspects of security. 5, transforming government. Government is a servant of the people. We inherited from colonialists a government that was a master of the people. In our constitutional dispensation, we have endeavored as a sovereign people to establish a government that is a servant of the people. But the legacy of the domineering government persists in Kenya today. Senior government officials continue to view citizens as servants. The NASA coalition government will institute a transformation initiative that will cure this colonial hangover so that every public officer, from the president down, is at all times alive to the fact that they are employed by the people to serve, not to rule over them. Number 6, realizing social and economic rights as enshrined in Article 43 of the Constitution. In Article 43 of our Constitution, Kenyans have willed that every citizen has a minimum standard of living that includes adequate food, health care, decent shelter, education, and social security. 6 years later, this important pillar of the Constitution remains ink on paper. As thousands of Kenyans continue to live in deplorable conditions, as with the obligations under Article 27 above, this mandate is not optional. Realizing these rights is the foundation of the NASA coalition's economic and social policy platform. Number 7, eradicating poverty and unemployment. 50 years after our founding fathers committed to eradicating poverty, half of our people are still poor. The economy is unable to create opportunities for millions of our young people. In 4 short years, the Jubilee administration has succeeded in disconnecting the economy from the welfare of the people. We are told that the economy is growing spectacularly as life gets harder and worse. A record number of companies are issuing profit warnings and laying off our people from employment. The NASA coalition economic policies, programs and projects will be guided by 2 objectives only: to put food on our people's tables and to create jobs and economic opportunities for our young people. Ladies and gentlemen, we now turn to the very critical aspect of this coalition agreement that speaks to a question that is on every Kenyan's mind: how we will deal with corruption. In this coalition agreement, we have committed ourselves to a code of conduct that sets the bar higher than has ever been set in this country. This code binds all of us and all the people who will be elected on the NASA platform and those appointed by the NASA government to the following: we shall not do business with the government either directly or indirectly. We shall not tolerate conflict of interest between public and private affairs. Every one of us will disclose their financial interests on appointment so that we ensure that there is no potential for personal benefit from the policy decisions that they make. We shall demand of our members and appointees to take moral and political responsibility for misconduct, failing which they shall stand dismissed. What we are saying here is that NASA government will have zero tolerance to corruption. No ifs, no buts. There will be no sacred cows in the NASA government. This code of conduct will become binding on us as soon as this coalition agreement comes into force. And each person with a position of responsibility in this coalition will sign a copy of it immediately. What does this mean? We are saying that you will never hear, "Munataka nifanye nini jameni?" from the NASA coalition. The NASA coalition president will never say that corruption begins with you. The NASA president will never get away with passing the buck to the EACC or the judiciary. Our goal is to attack the culture of corruption. This is our pledge to ourselves and to the people of Kenya. We are telling the world that Kenya is turning a new leaf, that investors can come here without fear of being obstructed to extract bribes, and our development partners can trust that assistance they provide will be in safe hands with our people and our government. Last but not least, the coalition agreement is not simply a political vehicle or a bus, to quote Senator Kiraitu. We are not a bus which the politicians will disembark on as we assume office. Kenyans can bear as witness that we have kept the code coalition in good working order, holding the Jubilee administration's feet to the fire relentlessly and incessantly. This is the spirit that we are taking with us to NASA. We have created a coalition structure at national and county levels, and that will remain outside government and mandate them to ensure that NASA coalition government stays the course. Like in Tanzania, CCM keeps a permanent check on the government, and CCM officials can instigate and cause the dismissal of a member of government at whatever level. NASA is going to occupy that position in our coalition. To this end, this coalition agreement obliges us to convene a General Assembly once a year, where we will give account to Kenyans what we have done, and Kenyans will tell us where we are going right and where we can do better. This is how we shall govern as servants of the people, not as masters of the people. God bless Kenya. Hiyo ndio taarifa ambayo tumeandika zote wane na timu zetu za kuwaambia Wakenya leo hii ya kwamba msisimuko mpya umefika nchi yetu, mwamko mpya uko hapa, na Wakenya sasa wanafunga safari ya kwenda kubadilisha vile mambo yetu inaendeshwa katika nchi yetu. Sisi wane tukiwa hapa tunawahakikishia Wakenya ya kwamba sisi tuna imani, na imani yetu itatupeleka mpaka kule tunataka kwenda. Imani yetu itatusaidia kusimama pamoja. Imani yetu itawezesha Wakenya wenye nia njema, na ni wengi kuliko wale wenye nia mbaya, kwamba nchi yetu inatakikana kuwa nchi iliyo katika mstari wa mbele katika kanda hii, katika bara letu, kwa kuonyesha uongozi timamu. Si ajabu kuona ya kwamba baada ya serikali ya Jubilee kutumia zaidi ya bilioni 2.6 kujaribu kumpeleka dada yetu Amina kwenda katika AU kama mwenyekiti, tunashindwa na nchi ambaye imeboromoka kama Chad. Kenya haiwezi kubishana na nchi kama Chad. Ile pesa ambayo wametumia kurandaranda Afrika kote, na mnajua nani alikuwa anabeba kibunda cha kile pesa? Mtu ambaye anajulikana kwa kuwa na vidole nyepesi kwa pesa, kwa kuwa na vidole nyepesi kwa mashamba, kwa kuwa na vidole nyepesi kwa kila kitu. Hiyo pesa haikufanya kazi, na hii ndio nchi. Kamata 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 kamata. ODM, Wiper, ANC, Ford Kenya. Kwa hivyo ndugu zetu wa Kenya, vile tumesema, serikali yetu inayokuja haina hifadhi yoyote kwa wale ambao wanahujumu umoja wa wananchi na wale ambao watafuja mali ya umma. Let me finish by reminding you what the late Wamala Kijana used to tell you, that a day like this in ancient Greece would be described as a day set aside for gods, for princes, and for heroes and legends. Standing here, we have no gods. Standing here, we have heroes. Standing here, we have heroines. Standing here, we have legends. And standing here, we have patriots without any limitations, without any boundaries as to what we can do for this country. And I want to urge you to live here asking yourself not what NASA will do for you, but what you will do for NASA, for the country to liberate itself through your individual and collective efforts, so that we give this country a government that it deserves, a country that can convince even our immediate neighbors. I feel embarrassed as your former foreign minister to stand before you and proclaim that we went to Addis and even Burundi abandoned us. A country for whom we have been paying salaries for their army could not stand with us. Uganda, that has been appearing to be advising or misadvising our leadership, abandoned us. Our good neighbor Tanzania, that has been the glue of East African community, abandoned us. So where are we? That is why you and you must stand up to be counted. Let me now take the opportunity to invite my brother, Raila Amolo Odinga, to address you.
Thank you. Thank you. Kamata, kamata. Kamata, kamata. ANC. Wiper. Ford Kenya. ODM. Nasema hayawi hayawi. Hayawi hayawi. Hayawi hayawi. Walisema umoja ya upinzani ni ndoto, haiwezekani. Lakini leo hii tunataka kudhihirisha ya kwamba yale haikuwa ni ndoto, lakini leo tumetimiza ahadi ambayo tulitoa kwa Wakenya, ati upinzani itaungana pamoja ili usindani iweze kuleta tsunami ya mabadiliko katika taifa letu. Nataka kupongeza Wakenya kuwa na subira, kupongeza wale ambao tulipatia jukumu wiki tatu iliyopita ya kwenda kufanya matayarisho ya kuleta sisi pamoja. Na ndugu zangu hapa, Mheshimiwa Kalonzo Musyoka, Musalia Mudavadi na Moses Wetangula, kusimama pamoja. Wameonyesha ya kwamba wao wenyewe wana kiu na uchungu ya kuona kwamba Wakenya wameokolewa. Vile Moses amesoma katika hiyo taarifa, tumeongea juu ya dhuluma ya kihistoria, ile safari ya Wakenya tangu uhuru mpaka wa leo, ambayo imekuwa na milima na mabonde. Tumeongea juu ya ubaguzi dhidi ya kina mama. Tumeongea juu ya vijana wa Kenya. Tumeongea juu ya uchumi ya taifa letu. Tumeongea juu ya ajira. Tumeongea juu ya dhuluma ya kwa upande ya katiba. Tumeonyesha yale ambayo nataka kuleta mabadiliko. Ziara ya Kenya imekuwa ni ndefu zaidi, lakini pale tumefika, tuko kwenye barabara panda. Chagua tuende kushoto au kulia. Kushoto ni kurudi nyuma, mambo ya yale, na kulia kutembea na kuendelea katika njia ambayo Wakenya wote wanataka, ile ndoto ambayo ilibuniwa na waanzilishi wa taifa letu, ambayo tulianza hii mkutano kwa kuimba Mungu nguvu yetu, bariki nchi yetu ya Kenya, haki iwe ngao na mlinzi, tukae na undugu, amani na uhuru, raha tupate na ustawi. NASA inataka kutekeleza ndoto ya waanzilishi wa taifa letu, sababu tumekuja pamoja, tuko pamoja sisi zote, na tuko tayari kufanya chochote ambayo inatakikana ili tulete mabadiliko. This is a coalition that has been formed for a purpose. It's a product of historical circumstances. So bringing together not just the 4, not just the 100 people, but bringing together all the faces of our country the people of Kenya who want change in our country. We will not tire. We will continue with this struggle for the liberation of our people so that Kenya can have what the founding fathers of our nation dreamed of. We want to build a new Kenya where our women are going to be fully empowered. And to do this, we will even have, if we need to address the issue of constitution. We will ensure that our youth are liberated, that our youth are empowered, that our youth are gainfully employed. We will ensure that each and every Kenyan citizen get their right from the cradle to the grave, so that they can be able to realize their national potential. We will ensure that every member of the society is included, an inclusive game, not a game of exclusion. We will ensure that every Kenyan has an opportunity, equal opportunity, that your name does not have to deny you employment when you are seeking employment. All the 43 different communities that live in our country must live in harmony and working together going forward. This is what we want as our people, as a people of Kenya. So we thank you all for coming here, for being with us here. NASA is now alive and kicking and going forward. And we are going to have our first public function in Eldoret town or city on this coming Saturday. We're going to have our first rally to announce the arrival of NASA in Eldoret, and everybody is welcome to Eldoret. Asanteni sana. Let me now take the opportunity to invite my brother Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka to come and address you.
Asanteni. Asanteni wananasa na wasalimu kwa furaha. Vile vile wenzetu wa Kenya, kwa sababu nimefahamishwa kwamba kwenye runinga zingine tukio hili linapeperushwa moja kwa moja. Kwa hivyo ni haki kuzungumza sio tu kwa wale ambao tuko hapa, lakini vile vile kwa wenzetu wananchi wa Kenya. Salamu nyingi sana. Leo hii ni siku ya kihistoria, na mimi nina furaha zaidi kwamba nimepata fursa kwa mara nyingine kuweka saini kwa coalition agreement. Lakini mara hii coalition agreement ambayo ni tofauti kabisa. Ndugu Raila atakumbuka mimi na yeye, nadhani sasa hii ndio awamu ya 3. Tuliweka mkataba wa NAC, National Rainbow Coalition, in 2002, na matokeo yakawa ya ajabu. Naona because they say history repeats itself, this time history is going to repeat itself. Lakini maajabu, tukanyimwa haki zetu kulingana na yale makubaliano ambayo yalikuwa pale. Kenyans will recall that we were adjudged then as the most optimistic nation on earth. And the NAC dream, unfortunately, was short-lived, because we didn't have this kind of a coalition agreement we have signed today. Tulienda tukawashinda kikamilivu, ambao siku zile walikuwa julikana kama project. Alafu yakafanyika yale yalifanyika. The good intentions of Kenyan people were hijacked by forces that were not progressive, negative forces, I like to call them. Mheshimiwa ndugu Raila, utakumbuka mimi na wewe tukaweka saini mara nyingine 2013 alafu yaliyofanyika, in effect the 2002 coalition agreement, when it was not honored, brought serious grief to this country, and this country has never recovered. In 2013 we did a similar thing. Mimi na ndugu Weta na ndugu Raila, we went on to score, believe it or not, 5.8 million votes, lakini ikawa downgraded to 5.4 million. Wenzetu wale wakapata 4.7 million, ikawekwa 6.2. Ni wazi sasa julikana kuna ukarabati wa kura milioni 2 ambao ulifanyika. Ndugu Raila, ndugu Weta, tukashinda following our last coalition agreement, na tukanyimwa haki. Sio sisi kunyimwa, wananchi wa Kenya wakanyimwa, wazalendo wakaumia roho zao, mpaka mahakama yenyewe kafanya ambalo halikutarajiwa na Wakenya walio wengi. Hadi wakati huu kuna pigo kubwa juu ya uwezo wa mahakama yetu kama nchi kuwa huru na ambayo inaweza ikasimamia haki kwa mambo ya upigaji kura. To the extent that both the Law Society of Kenya and the East African Law Society cannot quote what happened at the Supreme Court as authority for anything. Safari hii tumeweka mkataba ambao ni tofauti kabisa. Safari hii ndugu Weta na ndugu Raila, tumekuwa refreshed literally by the presence with us of our brother Wycliffe Musalia Mudavadi. I have no doubt in my mind that ndugu Mudavadi, you've been the missing link, and therefore you bring us luck. This time, and I want to make it clear that the document you have signed today is basically a framework document. There's still a lot of work to be done. We have made it clear that the team of 12 will continue to do the most important matter in 3 areas. Mainly, the matter of nomination of our candidates as National Super Alliance. There will be areas, because we are wiser, we lost Nairobi. Nairobi County could have given us at least 10 minimum code members if we had done our nomination right. We are wiser. This time that matter must be dealt with conclusively. Of course, areas where in any political organization they are seen as our strongholds, with the team again will continue to look at what is possible, whether the sister parties can have friendly fire, or whether the sister parties can again have joint nominations. That is work under progress. But the team of 12 have done a tremendous job, and I must thank them for what they have done. They know that the most important matter is to work on the all-important matter of flagship of NASA. And this is important. They are going to have to burn the midnight oil on our part, the 4 of us, and you will notice in that coalition agreement, because it is now public. In fact, after this, our secretaries general are going straight to the register of political parties to hand over this document. Therefore, to that extent, it will be public. We've actually said that even the critical matter of power sharing and whatever, not necessarily as in our statement, we have made it clear, we are not power hungry. We are not looking at who becomes what. We are looking for the common good of this nation. And therefore, we must work towards an all-inclusive government. Inclusivity to us is absolutely pivotal. It's a core value. And this is why Jubilee have completely failed to recognize the demography of this country, that we have nationalities living in this country. And then you go up to come and they've come up with an administration that is clearly not all-inclusive. Therefore, this is important. And this again is work under progress. So we undertake to move with speed, this time guided by the most important matter between us, and that is the principle of good faith. Moving every step in good faith, believing that Kenyans are also going to come along with us. Kwa hivyo tukifanya mambo haya, mimi sioni Jubilee wakiwepo. Imesalia miezi mitano peke yake, Kenya ipate uhuru wa haki. First, last and final liberation. The last and liberation, we're going to instill the spirit of constitutionalism, the spirit of brotherhood, the spirit of honesty in politics, and in the conduct of public affairs. Kwa hivyo mimi naulizeni ambao tuko hapa, tamko langu la mwisho, tujihadhari na IEBC. Na tunaambia wao, sio kusema hatuna imani na commission mpya ambayo sasa imeanza kazi. Itafahamika kwamba sisi tulipigwa tear gas na malori Nkaiseri, naona ameongeza mengine mengi zaidi yenye sumu ya maji. Lakini tutataka tuwape hadhari kwamba Kenyans cannot be cowed by excessive power, unconstitutional power, and use of the same, the freedom of association. A nation that even has lost its conscience. Where in the world have you had a doctor strike going on for over 70 days? Where? Where in the world have you heard of a country that is permanently one strike after another, and an administration that is literally having like hearts of stone and not hearts of flesh? Kwa hivyo, IEBC, I will mention here there is rot, absolute rot in the voter register. As we speak here, this is not a matter of speculation. This is why we said no to KPMG, because they did not have the ability to do a thorough audit of that register. As we speak now, they have not even cleaned it. Ndio naona ndugu Raila alipoenda mahali kucheck, zikatokea nambari, ukiweka tu 00222 inatokea watu wengi zaidi ambao wamesajiliwa kama wapiga kura. Tunajua kwamba hata NYS bado anaenda na kusajili watu wengine. We are saying from this platform today, these games must end. The culture of free and fair and credible and verifiable elections must creep in immediately. Jubilee owes it to themselves even. Because all of us on a world stage, we will come and play Act 2, Act 3 in a play. Where one of them said, if you read a book called A Man for All Seasons, that the world is basically a stage. And this common man came and played and said, I am just a common man. And here is a play made up of kings and cardinals in speaking costumes. He says, is this a costume? It actually barely covered one man's nakedness. We are all going to exit the stage. What is important is what do we leave behind. Therefore, we are putting IEBC on notice on this matter. Mr. Chebukati, we met you with your team. You know you have our full support. But if you discover there is rot in the system, come out and say it. Because we know there is rot. And this rot must be cleaned up. Double registrations. Hata unaana mahali ambapo anasema ati over-registered. If you look at it, it's a matter of double registration. I went as far as Kiajokoma in Embu. And there I found a young lady who came to register at that particular place, and she was told, you already registered. She has just obtained an ID, 18 years old, that tayari amesajiliwa kama mpiga kura. These games have to end. The whole thing now is IEBC. Finally, Shakespeare said there's a tide in the affairs of men. This is a high tide. And as my brother Raila said, this tide now will translate to tsunami. Already it is. Because people did not expect that we would come this far. But you know, God, for Christians like me, Ebenezer. This far, God has brought us. and is going to deliver a wonderful nation. Therefore, even Jubilee, please relax. Relax to know that a NASA win is even good for you. May God bless Kenya. May I now invite my brother Wycliffe Musalia Mudavadi.
NASA hawa, NASA hawa, NASA hawa. Ndugu na dada na Wakenya kwa jumla, mimi nasimama hapa na niko na furaha ya ajabu. Furaha kwa sababu ombi langu leo naona sio ndoto tena, lakini sasa ni ukweli. Nataka pia nichukue fursa hii kumpongeza na kumshukuru Mwenyezi Mungu kwa sababu yeye ndio ametuweka pamoja, amehakikisha tumetembea tukishikana mikono mpaka pahali tumefika. Najua tena atatushika mikono kule tunakoenda. Yangu yatakuwa hivi kwamba kwanza, ndugu na dada ulio hapa, wewe kama sasa ni mfuasi na mmoja wa NASA, hatutaki fitina. Fitina havifai kwa NASA, kwa sababu ni wakati kama huu ndio watu wanasema kwamba ile mtungi wa maji unaweza ukavunjikia kwa mlango. Nyinyi ndugu na dada ambao mko hapa na sisi na wale ambao mtatusikiza, ni jukumu lenu kuhakikisha kwamba yule ambaye anajaribu kuleta fitina miongoni mwetu, akiwa kwa county level ama akiwa kwa kitaifa, kwa viongozi wa kitaifa, anaswe na ashindwe. Jambo la pili ambalo ningependa kuhimiza ni kwamba vile wenzangu wamesema, NASA imezidi coalition za kawaida. NASA tunataka tushikane na ndugu zetu na dada zetu ambao wako kwa trade union movement. Tunataka tushikane na civil society. Tunataka tushikane na wale wako kwa vyama. Tunataka tushikane na wakina mama na wakina vijana pahali popote walipo. Tunataka tushikane na wafanyikazi, madaktari, hata na makanisa na madini zetu zote za kitaifa. Nasema hivyo kwa sababu jukumu la kuhakikisha Kenya itakuwa vizuri sio jukumu la viongozi wa kisiasa pekee, lakini ni jukumu la kila mtu. Na wenzetu wamesema ujiulize, wewe utafanyia nini NASA ama taifa la Kenya? Lakini tutuambie NASA itanifanyia nini kila wakati. Tunataka kupitia kwa NASA tuwe tayari kuhakikisha kwamba uwizi wa kura hautafanyika katika pembe zote za taifa, kwa sababu ndugu zetu walihadaa wa Kenya kwa kuiba kura ya mwaka ule mwingine uliopita. Katika sehemu zingine agents wa upinzani labda walinunuliwa ama wakatishwa na wakopotea kwa polling station. Lakini kwa nguvu za NASA, sasa kila polling station itakuwa na macho ya NASA. Kwa upande wa utekelezaji ya serikali, mimi sina shida na sina haya kusema kwamba politics is also about power. Kwa hiyo document we talk about power sharing, and there is nothing wrong with power sharing, because NASA is not a movement to monopolize power. NASA is a movement to share power. Kwa hivyo tusiwe na haya kuambia watu wa kina Jubilee wakizungumza ati wakisema hawa wanatafuta mamlaka, na wao wanatafuta nini? Si wanataka kuhifadhi mamlaka, na taabu yao wanataka kumonopolize mamlaka, na sisi tunasema hatutaki kumonopolize mamlaka, tunataka tugawe mamlaka. Kwa hivyo tusiwe na haya kusema huo ndio msimamo wa NASA. Jukumu kubwa kwa NASA, ndugu na dada, ni deni kubwa ambayo hawa jamaa wametuwekea. Ikiwa ni Wetangula, ikiwa ni Kalonzo, ikiwa ni Raila, ikiwa ni Mudavadi, ama ikiwa ni viongozi mwingine katika NASA. Tukitoka hapa tujue one horrible problem we have ni ile wanaita public debt. Hawa jamaa wametuweka mzigo, na huo mzigo ni mzito, and it will mean that we will need a lot of patience and a lot of cooperation, kwa sababu target moja kusimamisha uchumi itakuwa vile tutapambana na deni ya hawa jamaa wametuwekea. Na dawa ni NASA. Dawa ni NASA. Dawa ni NASA. Ndugu na dada, kuna wenzetu ambao wanapigwa na ukamwe wakati huu. Ng'ombe zinakufa katika sehemu mbalimbali, hawana vyakula. Kule Turkana watu wanajaribu kuchimba, kama wanachimba madini ili wakitafuta maji, na hawapati hayo maji. Security imekuwa mbaya upande ule. Sasa ni jukumu letu, tukifanya hiyo tujue kwamba ni lazima tuchunge hawa watu wetu katika Kenya pahali popote walipo. Na hatutaki serikali ya Jubilee itumie baa la njaa kujaribu kuonga wapigaji kura pahali wanastahili chakula. Chakula kipelekwe bila kuwashurutisha mambo ya kura, kwa sababu huu ndio mtindo wa hawa jamaa. Mimi husema kwa kimombo, their currency is a currency of default. Sisi hatutaki currency of default. Sisi viongozi wa NASA na ndugu na dada, mtusaidie tusimame imara kwa barabara ambayo tumeitaja hapa. Tuvute wenzetu, hatujafunga milango kwa wengine ambao wanataka waje. Hata nakumbuka nilipoanza kuzungumza mambo ya NASA, ndugu zetu wa Fourth Estate walichora cartoon 2-3 hivi. Moja nilikuwa nazungumza kama wazimu peke yangu, nyingine wakachora kwamba nilikuwa nimesimama pahali naambia watu muje kwa safina ya NASA, na tena nasimama peke yangu, na walichora na mashurubu yangu. Lakini sasa niko na furaha kusema kwamba Kenya imetambua NASA, na kila nyumba, kila kijiji sasa kinatamuka neno NASA, na NASA ni National Super Alliance, na hiyo ndio ita NASA Jubilee, na waende nyumbani. La mwisho, NASA is not a violent movement. NASA is a peaceful movement that is seeking the leadership of this country in a democratic and constitutional manner. Kenya kwanza. Kwa hivyo hatutaki kamwe watu kufikiri tukiwa hapa, tukisimama, tukisema tunataka haki zetu, that NASA is a violent movement. We stand for peace. Sisi ni watu wa amani. Lakini in that peaceful process, we must get our rights. Kwa hivyo tunataka tukienda mbele, tusimame, tuhakikishe tutakuwa free and fair elections. Na mimi naunga vile Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka na wengine wamesema, Mheshimiwa Raila, kwamba IEBC must come clean. It must come clean. Watuambie in no uncertain terms, are they really ready to hold free and fair elections, ama wanatuhadaa alafu watuangamize kwa mambo isiyofaa. We must be told the truth. They are coming from ground zero. As IEBC today, they must tell us whether they intend to be heroes in the process that they will manage the elections of this country. Kwa hivyo mimi nasimamia hapo nikiwaomba tu sasa tuende mbele, tushikane, tujue kwamba NASA imeimarika, NASA italeta ushindi katika taifa letu. Na musiwe na hofu. Candidates wa vyama vyote vya NASA, musiwe na hofu. Hata sisi wanne tuko hapa. Hatimaye ni mmoja ambaye atapata. Kwa hivyo tusia nyinyi pahali muliko kwa constituencies, pia musiwe na hofu. Kwa sababu tukisema tunataka tuwe na hofu, then what we have done will be zero. Kwa hivyo kila mtu ajue kwamba there is competition, na hiyo competition itakuwa sawa, na vile watu wataamua what God has destined, hata mtu akijaribu namna gani, it will still come to pass. Kwa hivyo sisi nimejiunga na wenzangu after a long journey, but what we have ahead is even more promising for this country and for our people. Na nikimaliza nasema NASA hawa, NASA hawa, NASA hawa, NASA hawa. Asanteni sana, kwa sababu bado tuna mkutano mwingine na European Union kuhusu mambo ya uchaguzi. The Observer Mission ya European Union iko hapa Kenya, na wanahitaji kuongea na viongozi wa NASA ili tuambie msimamo wetu kuhusu yale ambayo tunaona kuwa matayarishi ambayo yanafaa ama hayafai kuhusu mambo ya uchaguzi. Kwa hivyo ningependa kuwaomba tu ndugu zangu tuje na haya, tunamalizia tu ili tuonyeshe kwamba hiyo coalition agreement zote zimeweka sahihi. Asante.
All right, and there you have it, the four principles of the now NASA coalition standing before a crowd at the NASA headquarters in Lavington. Musalia Mudavadi, who birthed this coalition, spoke last and basically said this is here to stay, and they will indeed push out the Jubilee government. There they are showing the signed copies of the agreement that will then go to the registrar of political parties, making it official and setting the stage for a power-sharing formula that will be very important and critical as we move closer to the August 8th election day. Still with me in studio is Professor Macharia Munene. Professor, you've observed all this. You've